What a great night tonight. It's so wonderful to be back with all of my sisters and all of our friends here at Sundays with Win with Black Women. I see all of your hearts, all of the love. It fills my heart with so much joy, and it's so wonderful to be back with you on this Sunday, 9 days before the big election day. But as we know, early voting is underway in many, many states across the country. And it's so important, as you know, our theme this week as a part of our 30 days of Do Something is focused on making sure that we multiply. And you'll hear a lot about that tonight in our conversations and everything. So, for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, welcome to Win with Black Women. Just a little bit of a background about Win with Black Women. We are a network of Black women leaders from across the country. We are Black women in every single sector. We're Black women in entertainment. We're Black women in sports. We are Black women in business. We're Black women in Silicon Valley and tech. We're Black women in finance, Black women in the movement, Black women elected officials. We are Black women in faith. We are Black women in education. We are everywhere that Black women are. That is Win with Black Women. And it is just an honor to join you just about every Sunday night. For those of you who are here for the first time, we've opened up our calls. We have a lot more than we used to, but we started 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we started these calls around our collective concern around the narrative as it related to who would be the next vice president of the United States. And at the time, we all knew that Black women were under a lot of attacks, sexist, racist attacks. And we all came together on a Sunday night. I believe it was August the 1st. It was a Saturday night, I do believe. And we all came together and decided to write an open letter. And that was how Win with Black Women was born. And for the next 4 years, we would meet on most Sunday nights and we would come together around three core issues. Number one, speaking out against racism and sexism against Black women anywhere. Number two, working in our personal capacities to elect Black women up and down the ballot. And number three, making sure that we elevate the powerful voice and the collective power of Black women, and particularly that of Black women-led and centered organizations. And we've done some powerful work together. Everything from our work to support our sisters at the WNBA Players Association, and that work to help bring our sister Brittany Griner home, or the work to help propel and support Black women authors and Black women showrunners and Black women directors for pivotal films and works of art that center Black women, or our work to highlight Black women running for office. As we know, there are thousands of Black women on the ballot right now, in addition to Vice President Kamala Harris, who is at the top of the ticket. Such a historic moment. But we have, for the last 4 years, championed Black women who are running because we know that representation matters everywhere. And it's so important for us to ensure that we elevate those Black women. And it has also been our pleasure to just celebrate in our joy and to support Black women and to lift up Black women in moments of joy, because our joy is equally as important as our fight. Well, at Win with Black Women, just a few house rules. One, we want you to utilize the chat. The chat is a place for you to connect with other sisters, for you to tell us how you feel, and to give us your feedback during the call, and particularly to ask questions. Number two, we have opened up what is called a resource page since we have moved to webinar. There is a button at the bottom of your screen. You see lots of buttons. You see chat, you see React, you see resources and Q&A. Under the resources, you'll find all of the resources that are discussed tonight. And you can also find them on our website, www.winwithblackwomen.org. There you can also find information on how you can support Vice President Kamala Harris. You'll hear Star Jones tonight talk about the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective and a big update from there. You can also get updates on all the things that are happening, particularly the organizing. And that's the most important work that we have happening right now with Win with Black Women as our organizing. And you can join all of the great work that is being led by you, all of the sisters in our states across the country that are mobilizing in this very historic moment. It also is important for you to find resources on how you can follow us on social media. That's where you can get the latest news, the latest updates, and all the greatest and latest with Win with Black Women. We open in the spirit and we close in the spirit, and then we go into what we call after hours. And we now have the technology, whenever this call is over, for you to choose to go into a room led by a sister to engage in dialogue where you will no longer be in webinar, but you will be in a room where you can talk to each other. And so it is my honor and my privilege to introduce and bring to you on the Win with Black Women stage to open us in the spirit, Reverend Dr. Claire Nelson. Dr. Nelson, before you speak, I just wanted to say to everyone that is out there, all of the sisters, I just want to personally thank you for all of the calls, the texts, the DMs, and every single prayer that you have shared for my family, and particularly my mother, Lenora Eady. It is still a very tough time for my family. It is still a very hard time for myself. But your prayers, your thoughts, and your love has sustained me and my family in what feels like some of the hardest times that I've ever personally seen. And I am grateful for your prayers. I am grateful for your love. I am grateful for this sisterhood, for it is something that has been sustaining me in this moment. And I just wanted to personally thank you. I can't begin to say what it means. And it's very hard to try to respond to every single DM, every single text. And I promise I will try to get there. But if I do not, I want you to know that I see it and I feel it, most importantly, and I appreciate it. Thank you, and Dr. Nelson.
Breathe, 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 breathe. We gather and offer a small libation, recognizing as we walk upon the earth, our feet press against the bones of our ancestors on whose soldiers we stand. Those who have gone before us make us who and what we are. Let us pray. Mother, Father, God, Great Spirit, our Creator, we give you praise in all the names by which you make yourself known to us, your beloved. Enter now into the sacred temple that is our hearts. We give praises to our ancestors who were the architects and engineers and builders and farmers of our nation, especially the enslaved and dispossessed, whose karmic sacrifice have laid the foundation of our divine purpose. And so we give thanks and praises to all the souls gathered here together with whom we are in relationship as we seek to manifest more light in our communities across this nation. We understand that we are on this road together, no matter if we are walking, cycling, driving, or being chauffeured. We are on this road together with a shared vision for a future of inclusion, a future of prosperity, a future of flourishing that can only come forth when we are in right relationship with each other and with you, oh God. And so, for this week, for this meeting, and for this week, and for the days to come, we ask for your grace, for we know we shall be called upon to demonstrate that we hear our Spirit calling us to a greater love for each other, for this nation, for those with whom we disagree, and yes, even those who see us as their enemy. We know that we are God's seed, and we accept that we are beloved, your beloved, called for a time such as this. And our task then is to go out and plant the seeds of change, of a better must come future now, knowing that we're not too old, we're not too tired, we're not too late to do that next thing. And even if we stumble, we must go forward. Ever, knowing that we can start a new beginning today, this meeting, tonight, tomorrow, and each day, and therefore create a new ending. We are God's seed, and so we affirm that we will use our God-given talents that you have blessed us with to pursue our vision of full freedom. Relentlessly, we will do that one next thing we think we cannot do, and we'll never, ever give up. Yes, for we are God's seed. So may we walk into this meeting holding hands across this technical light form known as the internet. May we walk into this moment knowing that you are the only truth that is, and that truth is all of us, for we are God's seed. May we live each moment recognizing that we can manifest your kingdom here on earth if we demonstrate our walk of faith in God's love. And so, Mother, Father, God, bless us in this meeting as we gather. And so it is. Amen. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Ashe indeed. The Reverend Dr. Claire Nelson, thank you for that powerful word in the spirit. Sisters, we're going to continue in our agenda, and we're going to start off with an update from our good sister who keeps us in the press, Sister Rachel Norlander.
Hey, family. Sorry, I didn't realize I was up so soon. It's wonderful to be here. And Joteka, my God, I love you. We love you. We honor you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Um, what a week. What a week. What a week. What a week. 9 days, family, 9 days. If we could kindly pull up, I have a graphic that I sent earlier. I pray that you got it. If we could pull that up. There we go. So each week we are tireless about making sure that Win with Black Women is in the news. And this week was absolutely no exception. We are everywhere. And, if we could just go to the next slide. There we go. So thank you for that. So the news coverage is finally caught up to what we've known all along, and that is that this is a collective movement, and the media is unequivocally catching on. The Associated Press, they did an in-depth piece framing the power of our collective organizing, showing that it just isn't one group or moment, it's all of us moving together. Joteka did an interview with Bloomberg News, and she nailed it, highlighting how this momentum is undeniable, unstoppable, and growing every day. She also sat down the other day with CBS Morning News, and that's coming up. We shared the Nightline piece that ran. And so overall, there is a lot going on. And what's also exciting is we are getting a lot of local and regional coverage. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. If we could go to this third slide. So it's been
lining up to do
well, we can go ahead and run with it. Play the video.
what they can for the candidate or the party they support. More than 200 volunteers across Virginia are sending postcards to people who haven't voted yet or aren't consistent about showing up to the polls. We caught up with the Northern Virginia group of volunteers at Busboys and Poets, where they handwrote messages that centered around one theme: your voice counts.
We wanted to make a huge statement by doing postcards across the state. So actually we've planned this event to incorporate not only our area, but also Richmond, also Hampton Roads, and the south side of the state.
Today's event was put together by a group called Win with Black Women Virginia. They had similar events tonight in Hampton, Richmond, and South Boston, Virginia.
And ladies, it is not just Virginia. We have these stories that are happening everywhere. There was another story that ran on the local St. Louis Fox station talking about some of the work that Win with Black Women is doing, and other places as well. If we could go to the next slide. Next slide. Sorry, guys. So last Friday, I had the honor of joining my sisters, Karen Finney and Donna Brazil, and we did a media training for many of you on this call. And so the next 9 days, it is imperative that we are using our voices as much as we possibly can, folks. No outlet is too small or too big, because it is really, really imperative that we start to deconstruct not just the misinformation, but the disinformation. And, misinformation, they're both mistruths. In the case of misinformation, oftentimes it's false or inaccurate information, but sometimes the person spreading it actually believes it to be true. Disinformation, which is what we're hearing all day from the other side is false information, and it's deliberately intended to mislead. And so why it's important for us to keep talking and talking and talking is because we can help to cut through a lot of this disinformation that you guys see is just spreading like wildfire. So in the training that I did with my sisters, we talked a little bit about some just basic tools. I mean, we all know the basic stuff about being prepared and making sure that you are asking the right questions of yourself before you go into the interview so you know what to say and stay on message. Next slide, please. Simple things. And these are, Karen did an amazing job putting together the PowerPoint. And I believe it lives on the Win with Black Women site. So you can actually go and really see all of what she prepared. But, again, when talking to the media, they are often going to come in with what they want to say, but it's up to you. What do you want to say? And there's always power in clarity. When we keep things straightforward, our message lands so much stronger. And people really connect with stories. Stats are good. Stats are great, but it's the authentic voices. It's the stories of what you just saw from our sisters in Virginia and the sisters that are doing things all around the country. And be authentic. Just be you, be real. That's the key. Next slide, please. Focus on your messaging and staying on message. That's the most effective part of this. It's how we make sure our story gets told in the right way, because they're certainly not going to tell it in the right way 9 times out of 10. So you have to make sure that you stick by the messages that you want. And sometimes you have to remember, Karen talks about this in the media training quite well. Sometimes you got to pivot in what you're talking about and bring the conversation back to the issues or the things that you are trying to convey. Next slide, please. It's just basically about avoiding common interview traps, classic traps that people will do to you in an interview. Sometimes someone will give you a false premise when someone tries to make you agree with something that's just not true. Don't fall for it. Instead, reframe and bring the focus back to what's really real. And there's those hypothetical what if questions, but those can pull you away from the facts. So keep it grounded and definitely stick to what you know. Next slide, please. As we head into these final 9 days, y'all, I cannot believe it's 9 days. 9 days. This is where our focus really has to continue to sharpen. Our messages have to continue to be clear and powerful, whether we're writing op-eds or giving interviews or simply just talking to friends and families and neighbors. This is the moment that we can drive our messaging home. We can continue to talk about economic opportunity and freedom and democracy being on the ballot, and how this election speaks to the core values that matter most to us, and that our democracy and protecting it is everybody's responsibility, not just Black women, but we lead, but everybody's. This is a call of action for everybody to step up. And it's also a reminder that down ballot races matter. Organizing across dozens of states, Win with Black Women has been supporting so many women up and down the ballot, including Angela Alsobrooks in Maryland and Lisa Blunt Rochester in Delaware, who, if elected, will both be the first 2 Black women to serve in the United States Senate at the same time. And we really must keep pushing the importance of having these women and having others in office. Next slide, please. Finally, as we head down the end of it's not the end of the road, it's really just the beginning, because these next 4 years are going to be all about us. But we have to continue to address the misogynistic and stereotypical things we keep hearing. I mean, a case in point, the man is still speaking at Madison Square Garden right now. But if any of you have seen any of the coverage thus far, it has been horrific. The things that have been said have just been diabolically harmful and just terrible, racist, misogynistic. The comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, he said, I don't know if you know, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. I think it's called Puerto Rico. He actually said that. But guess what? No sooner did he said it, you had Bad Bunny and J-Lo endorse Kamala Harris. And so, look, he can keep espousing hate, but there are good people that are going to continue to stand up against this. And we have to continue to counter these narratives and highlight the broader impact of our work. We are not going to stop. We will not stop. And I believe that's the last slide. And the only final thing I'll say is, if folks have, we've been trying, people have been emailing www.actumllc.com, asking us to help with placing op-eds and helping with messaging, and more than willing to continue to do so. You can email us. I mean, we only have so many bodies and minds, but we will definitely be responsive to you and do our best to help you. And finally, thank you also to everybody that gave me condolences for the passing of my father. It meant so much to me. The Win with Black Women Love was just epic, and I am honored. Honored to be a part of this group, and honored to be helping with the press. And we're still in the billions, y'all. Billions of views are really each and every day looking at our work. So let's continue the momentum. I love y'all. I love you. I love you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for all that you do, you and your entire team at Actum LLC. You all, Rachel is a partner at Actum, one of the leading PR firms in the country, and they do a phenomenal job for Win with Black Women and all of the women that are leading and doing this amazing work across the country. And it's just so exciting to see your work and your op-eds and your stories, because we have to lift them up. It shows our collective power. And I think that Rachel's report was just so wonderful because it takes us right into our next update. It's a part of our series where we lift up the work of Black women-led and Black women-centered organizations, our sister organizations that are part of the Black Women's Leadership Collective. It's always important to lift up that important work. And so you are now going to hear from two Win with Black Women OGs, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw and Sister Tanya Clayhouse, and they're going to talk about an amazing set of research that they have embarked upon that is going to be very helpful to provide some context as you think about all of the great tips that was shared by our good sister Rachel, along with Karen and Donna in a previous, but Rachel highlighted. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw and Sister Tanya Clayhouse.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Joe Taken. It's so good to be back when you are back. It's wonderful to see you. So we're very, very excited to bring to you all hot off the presses some research that has been done. I'm going to turn it over to Tanya just to introduce, and I'm going to try to figure out how to share my screen while she's doing that.
Right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And it's indeed a pleasure to see everyone here. Thank you for having us. And it's great to be a part of this continuing fellowship. So we wanted to bring to you this critical information. It is a collaboration partnership that we have put together with a variety of organizations, Black-led organizations, and not only including African American Policy Forum, who we're speaking on behalf of, but also the Georgia Deltas. We're working with the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, the Black Women's Roundtable, with the National Council for Negro Women. We are working with the NAACP, with the National Urban League, and we are really excited. Oh, sorry, I failed to mention also the Transformative Justice Coalition. And we have a variety of partners that have also sponsored a survey in which we decided was necessary in order to do with hit strategies to really speak to what is the racial justice narrative that we need to be speaking about. And is race forward messaging something that really can help motivate and move people to the polling place? So this is why we pulled this coalition together. We're excited. We feel that this is a motivating factor. and we were right. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Dr. Crenshaw, who is going to speak on the top lines, and then we're going to come back and hopefully you will be able to join us later on during the week for even more detailed conversation. Dr. Crenshaw.
Thank you, Tanya. So this is just a snapshot of what we have found in the research that we've done. We looked at Black voters, African-American voters, and liberal voters in swing states. Basically, what we wanted to determine is what were the most effective messaging that we were able to test that activated our base voters to the polls. The idea is to measure the extent to which content and messaging actually drives people's motivation to vote. We were especially interested in learning about what was driving Gen Z voters and what was driving male voters. And here are our key findings. First of all, this is a very engaged electorate. They are ready to vote in 2024. And importantly, racial justice is an extremely important issue to those who believe that there's still more work to be done. And that's particularly so for the subgroup of racial justice voters that make up those who are most motivated to go to the polls. So we wanted to understand what they were looking for and what increases their desire to actually go into the polls and have to withstand what we know so many people will have to withstand in order to vote. So that's what we were looking to measure. We found, not too surprisingly, that Project 2025 is deeply concerning to this coalition. But we also found that when we gave them more information about 2025, more specific information about what that was going to do to reverse progress, to take away opportunity, to create more racial disparity, their motivation went up 17%. So there is a value to talking specifically about Project 2025 and what it means for racial justice voters. Black Gen Z, not as motivated by racial justice as many of us thought. So that was a bit of a surprise. In fact, the bigger gap is not the gap that everybody's talking about between men and women. The largest gap is between baby boomers and Gen Z. So we have to figure out how to address that gap to activate our Gen Z voters. Now, even though Black registered voters and white liberal voters are already ready to go in this election, they too are more activated when they hear more specific messaging about racial justice. And finally, just under half of Black registered voters are characterized as racial justice voters. These are people who believe that there's still barriers and obstacles, there's still work that needs to be done, and they expect and demand that their elected officials address that. Now, not too surprisingly, the majority of Black women are racial justice voters, and the majority of voters over 50 fall into this category. So what have we learned? We have learned that 45% of Black registered voters are what we would call racial justice voters. You see a little bit more here on the side who they are. 64% are boomers. They're mostly 60% of them are women. So the folks on this call, that's you that we are talking about. Now, they're clear. They want a candidate that directly addresses racism in order to eliminate these obstacles, and they prefer them substantially over those who think the best way to address race is to stop talking about it. For racial justice voters, this is a must in the candidates that they want to see. Nearly all respondents, racial justice, and those who are just liberal or Black voters, they believe that racism is still a problem, and they look to their political leaders for action. Now, a majority of Black voters are dissatisfied with the state of race in America. But here is something interesting. Gen Z is much more likely to be satisfied with the state of race in America than older voters. In fact, a slim majority of them are more satisfied. Now, here's something where everybody comes together. Education is an important subset of racial justice issues for voters. 90% agree that it's important for schools to teach about race and racism, teach about our history. 97% of racial justice voters agree with this proposition. Now, when we talked about Project 2025, most people had heard about it, but they weren't deeply familiar with it, and they especially weren't familiar about the consequences of Project 2025 for racial justice, and in particular for Black people. So in our testing, we gave them a variety of ways in which Black folk are going to be particularly impacted by Project 2025. And you just see a couple of them here: police immunity, the Department of Justice, eliminating the Department of Education, eliminating the words diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we gave them all this information with a hope that we could measure which of these issues really made a difference to them. Now, once they actually saw what Project 2025 really meant to their lives and their families, nearly 60% of Black voters say they are much more likely to vote after hearing more about Project 2025. Although, again, Gen Z was less motivated than older voters. They were most concerned about police immunity. They were most concerned about changes in the Department of Justice and the Office of Civil Rights. But all of these aspects of Project 2025 were really motivating to people. And in particular, when we talk specifically and concretely, it has more of an impact than general ways in which Project 2025 is talked about. So we talked about how Project 2025 singles out diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory over 100 times. And we asked them how important that was in shifting their ideas about how motivated they were to vote. All of it shifts a little bit, but when you talk specifically about them weaponizing our particular DEI, our history, that motivated them even more. Now, what does that mean in terms of messaging? So number one, we saw an increase of 17% of voters who shifted to 8, 9, or 10 in their vote motivation. And at this point, when most people pretty much decided who they're going to vote for, the question is how motivated they are to vote. So to get out more of those voters, giving them more motivation makes a difference. And here we see that it actually increases the motivation for non-college men, LGBTQ plus community, Gen Zs even are more motivated when they hear these specific messages. Race-based messaging performs well, particularly on topics about gender, democracy, health equity, and DEI initiatives. They are performing the best. Now, when we talk to folks on Wednesday, we'll go deeper and give more state-specific guidance on what we found. But here's the top line. Acknowledge that progress has been made, but make sure to pivot that there are still concerns about inequity that need to be addressed. We need to be more specific about how things are changing and what we need to do to keep it moving forward. We also have to lean on loss aversion, focusing not on extremist policies. People don't know what that means, but people do know what it means when we use active language more than passive. So we want to target words like removing, reversing, eradicating. These are the things that are at stake. So there's much more that we're anxious to share with you all, but we wanted to come back with the specific information about why it matters for us to be able to say to people, yes, you know democracy is on the ballot, but do you know what that means for your community, your family, and your life? The more we tell them concretely, the more motivated they are to vote. Tanya?
To get more information, thank you so much, Dr. Crenshaw. To get more information about this, we are hosting a Zoom call and a conversation with everyone to give a deep dive into this. You can see it in the chat. There is a link to join us Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Please register. You will get all this information. We will also send out a link to the two-pager. We will send all this information via, to Joteka and to Holly and to everyone to make sure this gets out to the entire coalition. So we just want to make sure you know that you will get these graphics and you'll get more information. So thank you so much, Joteka. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to be able to present this. We just want you all to be able to use this as you're working really to motivate people to get out and vote.
Thank you so much, Sister Tanya, and thank you, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. Always very powerful, insightful information, and there were lots of questions. I encourage you to take a look at the Q&A. There were a lot of questions that are there and also in the chat. And we will make sure that you get information on this very important webinar. But all in all, it's so important for us to make sure that we are equipped with the correct information and also the information that will move as many voters as possible. Thank you. Sisters, we'll keep moving right on in this agenda, and I'm super excited to bring up our sister Star Jones, with a report on the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective. A really big update, Star. Every time I'm out, I literally today had a friend come and visit, and she has been holding. She has a $1,000 donation that she wants to make. And she said, I am not making this donation until I can get the correct link, because I want to make sure that Black women are getting credit for what we are doing as a collective. So she had been holding on to that $1,000 because she said she couldn't find the link. So I told her that I was going to let you know that we need to make sure they plaster the link everywhere, that you were going to have a big update tonight. So shout out to my dear friend. Her name is Kimberly. I won't give her last name, but who's making a donation and who only wanted to do it through the Brown Girls fundraising link. Over to you, Star.
Thank you so much, Joteka. And how happy am I to see you back in that moderator's chair today. Please kiss Mama for us. Let her know that we are all putting all the sisterhood and the daughters and the granddaughters and the nieces and the goddaughters love and support in your corner as well as in hers. Joteka, thank Kimberly for us. Let her know that so many of our sisters have been doing the same thing. Ladies, I cannot begin to tell you how proud I am to continue to share with you the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective. We really continue to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, to date, I have the numbers. We have raised over $2.75 million for the Harris Victory Fund. Did you hear what I said? 2.75 million over that. The actual number is $2,815,753.22. Oh yes, I have the numbers up to date to the minute, because that's the one thing that we really wanted to do with the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective. We really wanted to make sure that we had skin in the game, that we would be in control of the money and where it was going. It is going directly to the Harris Victory Fund. This is the fund that comes right through the campaign. There are no organizational fees that come off the top, none of that. All your contributions go to where you want it to go. We actually have 2.5 million in contributions plus indirect contributions of 257,000, which make up that $2.8 million. But look at these numbers: 21,705 contributions. Those are individual contributions. The number of contributors, which I consider to be bundlers, because I mean everybody that's working, we're working together as a collective, are over 20,000 individuals. So you see there's 21,000 contributions, but there are 20,000 plus contributors, which means people are going back again and again. But look at the number. Over $100 contributions, literally half. 10,000 people have put in at least $100. But that $1,000 in contributions that Kimberly is joining, we're at 872 people. But the average contribution is $118, which means Everybody can have some skin in the game. And why is that important? Because it's important for us to convey to the world, to the community at large, to the nation, what Black women bring to the table, what Black and Brown women can do together when we are a collective. That's what makes this so exciting about it. I really only created the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective with the goal of giving Black and Brown women who've never participated in political fundraising a taste of what it feels like to, as I like to say, have some skin in the game. And we have really been showing up. Today, I really would like to highlight some of the quote bundlers. These are the people who are part of the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective. Africans for the Diaspora have done over $27,000. The Bay Area Women United over $17,000. Black Women for Kamala, almost $6,000. The States United for Kamala, over $1,500. Nikitra Bailey, almost $2,500. Tia Brakely, $24,000. T.L. Burgess, over $2,000. Keisha Davis, $2,500. Joteka Edie and her whole team of people, over $150,000. Jacqueline Howard, $2,000. Lisa Jackson, um, she's done 700,000 on her own, but 140,000 through the Brown Girls. Just not playing. Sim Marshall over $4,000. Leslie Faith Jones over $1,300. These are people that have decided to coalesce. These people can raise money on their own, but they coalesced with the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective so that we could show the power of what happens when we work it all together. That's one of the things that I just love about being a part of this collective and Win with Black Women, so that people understand that we're not playing. We're so not playing. I was watching the television the day before I came on so that I could make this report. And you know how I am about putting these reports together for you all. So I was paying attention to this Madison Square Garden rally that was going on, and it broke my heart because I thought to myself, this is the city that I love. This is where I became a New York City prosecutor, where justice means so much to me. And I heard folk using such hateful language talking about people who are Americans. And I just could not believe that. Yeah. And I remember when I had the opportunity to go over to Israel to visit Vad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum over there. And I spent more time in the propaganda room than I did in the rooms that honored and remembered the atrocities, because I wanted to learn what would make people garner around such hate. And the propaganda room was the room where I learned that's how they get you. They use propaganda and they make communities hate other communities. And it just broke my heart today because it hit me that this isn't just about choosing a leader. It's really about shaping our future and ensuring that our communities are seen and heard and valued. And when we look at the vice president, we see a woman who embodies the strength and resilience of our communities. So that's what having skin in the game is about. It's not a spectator sport, ladies. It's a call to action for each one of us. We have this unique opportunity to contribute our voices, our votes, and yes, our financial support, because that's what gives you a seat at the table. It may not make everybody excited, but that's what gives you a seat at the table. That's what makes people return your phone calls. That's what makes people listen to your voice. And I'm telling you, Black and Brown women have stepped up this year. And I just want to say thank you for that, because the vice president needs your organization. She needs your canvassing. She needs your support. We have faced historic injustices, and allowing people to use racism and sexism and misogyny and anti Semitism to divide us is not what's going to move the nation forward. So I have been proud to represent you in investing our time and resources in this election, because it's not just about today, it's literally about tomorrow. And every phone call that we've made, every dollar that you've donated, every conversation that has been initiated has the potential to save lives. I'm not being overly dramatic. I'm just telling you what I know to be fact. I'm asking you to continue to be involved, not just for ourselves, but for the future that we envision for all of our children. It's been emotional for me today because this election truly will change the course of generations to come. In your work, your passion, your contributions, your donations, your support of what our efforts have been has just been next level. And I just wanted to be here myself to thank you on behalf of the Vice President, on behalf of those people who are trying to move our nation forward. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Sister Star Jones, I've been gone for a couple of weeks, and I'm getting the mute button. I'm falling back into the mute world. But first of all, what I was saying was that you are indeed a star to us, and we are so grateful for your leadership. We are grateful for your vision, for your strategic vision in helping ensure that we have a seat at the table. So thank you so much for representing us so well. $2.8 million, sisters. $2.8 million. Now, let me tell you, if you read the bottom of the Win with Black Women story, it would say back in 2020 in the cycle, we raised nearly $600,000. $2.8 million. That is progress led by our sister Star Jones. Thank you. And all of the sisters who are giving, whether you are giving $1 or whether or not you are giving $10,000, every bit matters and all of it is important. And thank you so much. Thank you, Sister Star. We're going to go right along, sisters. We are super excited to have with us two of our United for America coalition partners who represent the amazing community of disabled voters for Kamala Harris. We all know that every vote matters, and it is so important for us, particularly in this moment where there is so much aggression at the election. All of our ballot boxes at all of our precincts across the country. And we also know that there is a lot of efforts to try to remove people from the rolls or make it hard for people to vote in. And our disability community, many of us, if we think about it, we probably have someone in our family or someone in our community or whom we know that may be impacted. And it is important for us to understand their rights and how we can be advocates in our communities for disabled Americans to be able to cast their vote. And I'm so honored to bring up Sister Monica Wiley and Sister Naida Green to share some insights with you. Welcome, my sisters.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much, Joe Taker, for the warm introduction. And thank you so very much, Win with Black Women. Good evening. I am delighted to be here with you this evening for a few moments. And tonight, for just a few moments, we're going to speak broadly about the laws that supports and protects voters with disabilities, especially Black women and women with disabilities. And we look forward to continuing this discussion. My co-presenter tonight with me is Ms. Naida M. Green, and she will be presenting in a few moments. So thank you so very much for indulging us. Next slide, please. Voting rights for people with disabilities. According to the Center for Disease Control, there are 70 million adults with disabilities and 40.2 million voters that are eligible to vote. Now more than ever, it is very important for 1 in 4 Americans with disabilities to cast their ballots and make our voices heard. Section 504 of 1973 Rehabilitation Act prohibits discrimination against any federally funded programs and requires reasonable accommodations to be provided, which includes mail-in ballots, polling places, and the voting process. The passage of the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act of 1984 required that polling places be accessible for people with disabilities, or that an alternative method of voting must be provided. It also lets people with disabilities ask to move up in the line to vote. And then we have the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act, Section 208, and that took place in 1984. And that provides voters the need for assistance because of their blindness, their disability, or their inability to read or write. And it also provides them the opportunity to have assistance to bring someone with them, as long as not their employer or a union representative, to go into the voting booth with them to help them understand and cast their ballot. Next slide, please. Remember, in-person polling places must provide an accessible voting machine. The HAVA Act, which stands for Help Americans Vote Act of 2002, it requires the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act regulations, to have at minimum one accessible voting machine. Please do not accept any excuses, because you have the right to use an accessible machine if you require an accessible machine to vote. The HAVA Act of 2002 also requires that individuals with disabilities are provided with information about the accessibility of polling places, which is including outreach programs to inform the individuals about the availability of accessible polling places. And the websites used to provide this outreach must be accessible to people with disabilities. Again, the Americans with Disabilities Act entitles every individual with a disability, I repeat, every individual with a disability, to fully participate in the electoral process. There are approximately 40 million individuals with disabilities that are eligible to vote this year. So our voice matters, our vote matters, and our perspective needs to be included in our elections. Next slide, please. Know your rights. Service dogs are allowed in polling places, and you are not required to provide a certificate or license. Now, staff can ask if it is a service animal and what tasks it performs, but they do not have the right to prohibit you from bringing them in unless the service animal is misbehaving or posing some sort of threat to others. Only then a polling place staffer can ask the animal to stay outside, but you're still able to come in and vote. Curbside voting is currently available in 27 states, and that includes the District of Columbia for voters with disabilities. To know if your state still includes curbside voting, please click on the link that is displayed here, and we're happy to put in the chat as well so that you can know if your state provides that apparatus for you to vote curbside. Next slide, please. And lastly, before I yield to my colleague, Ms. Naita, where she will continue on with the rest of the presentation, ways to cast your vote. Below are various options you can use to cast your vote. Of course, you can cast your vote in person, by absentee or mail-in ballot, with accessible equipment and necessary modifications, with personal assistance. We talked about having assistance with you if it's needed, as long as it's not your employer or a union rep, and privately and independently. This information can also be found at the link here that's displayed on the website, and in the webinar, and we're happy to put that link in the chat as well. I am now going to yield to Ms. Naida Green to continue on with the presentation. Ms. Naida?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Naita Green. If you can go to the next slide, please. Vote by mail. I vote by mail because of my disability. I have dyslexia. I also have some physical limitations. It is safe and secure. The most important thing voting by mail in your state is you need to check the requirements. In some states, it has to be there by election day. In some states, it has to be postmarked by election day. The most important thing is to check your ballot and to check the requirements to accept for your ballot to be accepted. The other thing about voting by mail is that you need to follow the instructions that are laid out, because your ballot can be rejected if you forget to sign the envelope. And also, in some states, you also have to date it and make sure it's sealed. If you don't seal it, it gets rejected. And if your ballot is rejected, you can, and it's before election day, you can still probably vote in person. I know I live in a state that if it's rejected or I don't submit my ballot, I can still vote, but every state has different requirements around voting by mail. And the most important thing is to check your state requirements. Next slide, please. So these are the resources in the chat. US Vote Foundation is a great resource. Just go to that website that, we will be posting. This presentation will be posted in the resource guides. CLU, Know Your Rights, learn how to exercise your right to vote. The disabled community is the largest voting bloc. It's 40 million people. ASL voter hotline. So if you have members of your family who are part of the deaf and hard of hearing community, in order to have access, you have to request this ahead of time because they don't have interpreters day of. So you have to call your local board of elections or at the county level, the city level, or the state level, depending on what state where you live, in order to get the access that you need. Everybody has different accessibility needs around voting. Every disabled person is not going to need the same accessibility needs. Some people, do the vote by mail, but they drop it in a drop box. Some people can't do that. They have to drop it in a mailbox. Some people with disabilities like to go to the polling place. So we need to make sure everybody has access. Next slide, please. So I want to thank everybody. My name is Naita Green. I am the founder for Neurodivergent Voters for Harris Walls. I'm also a community activist. We meet on Wednesday nights. We're doing Get Out the Vote. And Monica, do you want to introduce your title and just say who you are officially?
Absolutely, Naita. I will be glad to do so. And since we're speaking about accessibility, I just want to briefly give a brief description for anyone that is blind. That's typically what we do when we are presenting in the disability community. So, of course, I am a Black woman, but brown skin with blonde locks and some lovely, lovely, nice looking glasses to complement my look today with red lipstick. And so I am the voter engagement specialist at the National Disability Rights Network. I'm also a DIA practitioner there. And then, of course, as a consultant that focuses on strategy and communications for people with disabilities with other nonprofit organizations. And so we thank you so very much for indulging us for a few minutes tonight. We hope that this information you find is valuable and that you are equipped and ready to help protect the rights of voters with disabilities at the polling place. And we look forward to furthering this discussion. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you both so much for those very powerful updates and very helpful information for us to carry into our communities for ourselves, our families, and our communities and others as we are going into the voting booths across the country. Thank you all so much. Sisters, we'll keep moving right along in our agenda, and it is now time for transition. Holly, I'll turn it over to you for a transition video as we transition from our nonpartisan to our very focused conversation focused on all things Vice President Kamala Harris for president.
Win with Black women. We are leaders. We lead ourselves. We lead our families. We lead our neighbors. We lead our community. We lead our nation. Win with Black women. Kamala needs us.
She cannot do any of this alone. So I'm asking you one last time, let us not just sit around and complain. Let's do something. If your brother or your son or boyfriend needs to hear your perspective, are you willing to talk to them? Are you willing to send a video of what I just said? Are you willing to do something? If you have an aunt who's thinking about sitting this one out or voting for a third party, are you willing to have an uncomfortable conversation? Are you willing to Do something. If you have an extra hour or extra
When with
weekend,
Black
are you willing
women,
to knock
we
on
must
doors and
do
talk to
something
your neighbors
to
Are you
ensure
willing
our
to
family,
do something?
our neighbors, our community, and our nation vote. When with Black women, this is week 4 of our
Awesome. Do something. That's so important. And I am super excited to bring up a very special guest. She is a friend to Win with Black Women, someone who we love. She is always doing something in the United States Congress. She is a fighter for the good people of Brooklyn. She is a fighter for all Americans on a wide array of issues. She is dynamite. Might I add, she is something spectacular. She is my friend and my Sabra, and she is the Representative Yvette Clarke, hailing out of Brooklyn, New York. We are so excited to bring up Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Oh my goodness, my sister. It is always so good to see you. So good to see you. Welcome back to Win with Black Women. We want to hear all about your election because you know you're on the ballot as well, but also just all of the great work you continue to do on behalf of the good people of New York and all Americans across the country.
Well, first of all, just thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful introduction, Joteka. It's wonderful to be with you once again. It's just lovely to see the work that Win with Black Women has been doing day in, day out, week in, week out. It has been just extraordinary. Let me say greetings to everyone within the sound of my voice and just say how pleased I am to be with you, how honored I am to join you tonight. And I want to thank Joteka again for that wonderful introduction. I'd also like to recognize all of the women who have been presenting this evening, spot on, informative, and to the core of what we must know as we go out and we close the deal for Vice President Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Working alongside with my colleagues of the Congressional Black Caucus, who are in full support of the Harris-Walz administration and working diligently for the advancement of Black people. We are scattered all across the battleground states, going door to door if need be to make sure that we get the vote out for this ticket. I am, as has been stated, Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, and I proudly represent New York's 9th District, and that's in Central and Southwest Brooklyn. I'm proud to serve as first vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm proud to join our nation's most brilliant Black women for this critical conversation ahead of what we know is the most consequential election season of our lifetime. Now more than ever, it is vital that we stand as a united front against the forces that's trying to drive us apart. You know, one of the things that I really gravitated to was Star Jones, her discussion about the propaganda that is flooding all of our airwaves, all of our social media feeds, even reputable newspapers. Each and every woman on tonight's call needs to understand, and I'm sure understands, the stake of this election. Every one of us knows that what is at risk if we fail in our essential and existential mission. And every one of us recognizes the forces working tirelessly to make us lose this race. While there are many, perhaps too many to list, there is one danger that we have not faced until now, and that is the use of artificial intelligence. Let's be clear, ladies. This is the first election cycle where AI-powered mis- and disinformation are impacting the minds and hearts of voters. Black and brown communities in particular have been targeted relentlessly with fabricated content generated by AI tools, and that has only been amplified with the meteoric rise of Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign. We have all witnessed the toxicity of our current political climate. Those who want to be deceptive or harm their opponents can easily do so much damage with AI-generated advertising. And our current laws have not come close to keeping pace with these rapid developments. With few policies to manage the spread of misinformation, we stand at the precipice of a new era of disinformation warfare, aided by the use of new AI tools. And as a leader on the bipartisan AI task force and a key organizer of the Congressional Black Caucus's AI policy series, I'm uniquely positioned to understand the need for a federal legislative solution to many of the harms and concerns that are impacting the lives of Black people in America. This use of AI, this repeated disinformation, this repeated misinformation is a form of, yes, propaganda, but for those who are not educated well, for those who are susceptible to cult-like advancements, will fall prey to a lot of this misinformation and disinformation. I really want to make sure that each and every person is aware that this campaign is moving into full gear. In my capacity in my own office, I've introduced legislative solutions like my Deepfakes Accountability Act and Real Political Ads Act to prevent those new technologies from becoming and bringing further chaos, confusion, and harm from reaching our communities. It is vital that we stay on the lookout for manipulated content and be mindful of all the potential mis and disinformation out there. We're struggling to make sure that we contact and connect with low propensity voters. It's not helpful when they've been given a heavy dose of misinformation, of disinformation. The only thing that we can stop them with is our vigilance. Ladies, we must stay vigilant against the lies, the deception. We must stay vigilant in our own messaging. With fewer than 2 weeks to go, we must continue to remind our folks that this is an election of contrast, chiefly the contrast between the convicted felon, the convicted sexual abuser, the serial liar, the pro-insurrectionist candidate versus a brilliant, fearless prosecutor devoted to justice who also happens to be the first Black woman and the first AAPI woman to be nominated for President of the United States. We are standing with Kamala Harris because alongside President Biden, they have delivered for the American people since the day they took office. Despite the pandemic and the worst economic crisis we have seen in more than a decade, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden's administration have produced more than 15 million jobs, passed landmark legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and more, and made a record number of judicial appointments and stood resolutely at the side of Black Americans, people of color, and the most vulnerable communities in our nation in the face of all of this hate and persecution. Unfortunately, lately, our nation's most powerful have chosen to prey on a population that includes its most vulnerable through xenophobic and despicable disinformation. Immigrant communities are at an incredible risk for Republican rhetoric, and they face an existential threat if Republicans win in November. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's Project 2025, as we've been stating, contains central tenets such as the indefinite detainment of children and families at the southern border, the reinstatement of Trump's Remain in Mexico policy that confines non-Mexican asylum seekers to Mexico as their cases are processed, and the empowerment of ICE with unprecedented control over migrant lives. While Democrats and the Congressional Black Caucus continue our moral compass of securing temporary protected status for numerous imperiled nations, as well as a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients. Politicians like Trump and Mr. Vance continue their work in the shadows to bring their dystopian dream to reality. And in the 119th Congress, we will see our historic caucus reach unprecedented heights. It'll be thanks to one extraordinary Black woman in the White House fighting day and night to empower us and our cause. Alongside our new president, the CBC will build upon our successes under Chairman Hosford as we transition into the 119th Congress. We will continue to champion equity in healthcare, the economy, and education. We will defend our educational institutions from the forces trying to tear them down, advocate for our migrant neighbors, and work to lift them up. We will fight for environmental justice, and we will fight against disinformation. Together, we will do all this and more. Together, we will elect Kamala Harris as the 47th President of the United States of America. And then in 2028, we'll do it all over again. So let me just, again, thank you all for the hard work, the dedication, the commitment that we have all sort of undergirded each other with. Each week, I have seen so many of you out there on the campaign trail, making a difference and touching one more voter. And that's what I want to encourage us this evening as we continue our plight and our fight for victory. Let us also make sure an effort to touch one more voter each and every day. The season of voting is in high gear, and we know that there are going to be many, many in our community who are being fed misinformation. Let's touch them. If they're at the bus stop, on the subway station, if they're in the beauty salon or at the supermarket, wherever our people are, we need to be there in the midst, encouraging and in lifting them up in this season of voting. So to each and every one this evening, Joteka, Edie, and the team, win with Black women, and we are winning.
Always, 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 Congresswoman, it is always just an honor to have you here. Thank you for just really outlining why this election is so important and the importance of the United States Congress. We know there are a number of Black women that are running for the United States Congress, both the Senate and the House. We know there are a number of Black women. Of course, all eyes are on in the Senate side, Lisa Blunt Rochester, Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, vying to become the first two Black women to serve simultaneously in the United States Senate, but also the United States House. There is a very large contingent of Black women in the United States Congress, including yourself and others, such as Congresswoman Amelia Sykes, who wanted to be with us tonight, others that are on the ballot as well that are fierce fighters for us. So thank you so much, because that House is going to be so important, and I am looking forward to seeing a leader, Hakeem Jeffries, to be Speaker of the House. That's going to be important when and if, and I'm just claiming it, we take back the House, and then we take the Senate, and we have a Vice President Kamala Harris in the White House. Oh, what a sweet day that will be.
I am just so excited about it myself. And, you know, the constellations are really aligning for us to move forward as a nation, to use the strength that our ancestors had given and passed on to us, and really take our nation in a direction that lifts our communities to new heights. I am very optimistic when I see what Vice President Kamala Harris is doing, when I see her agenda for freedom. You know, that is just that is what our ancestors' wildest dream. And we need to lift that up. We need to make sure that our people are ready. It's liberation time. We cannot allow ourselves to be dragged back into an era where our humanity is abused and oppressed. We need to make sure that we are moving forward. So I am really just so excited about the work that is being done, all of the sisters who have joined Win with Black Women and are doing the work, and just you and your team, Joteka. We're just grateful for your leadership and for all that you have done and continue to do in lifting up Black women. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. And it's truly a team effort. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, New York, and all of America, too. Thank you so much. Sisters, we're going to keep moving on this agenda. And we are going to dive into organizing for the win. And I'll turn it over to my sister, Holly Holiday. All the great organizing happening in all the states across.
Man, let me tell you, Joteka, they are making us proud, are they not? They are doing
It's
it
amazing. And I see you on
everywhere.
Instagram too. I saw you
Man,
on
win with Black
Household
women everywhere.
Black women. And I need a Win with Black Women state t-shirt from every state so that I can have a new wardrobe. I'll be like I'll do the whole Tim, not Tim Cook, but Appleseed, I can't even remember his name, but he wore the same thing like
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, and I could just wear me a Win with Black Women t-shirt and just switch it up in different states. Over to you, Holly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, hey y'all, guess what? Week 4, we got here, we made it. We're doing something. And if you all remember, we are following the instruction of Kamala's mom and doing what she told her to do. Don't get mad, do something. And we are right in the middle of it. You remember your 30-day Do Something campaign, crew? We are still hard at work doing all the things for you. We want to remind you that this is 3 goals, 4 pillars, and 5 weekly themes. The goals are simply to focus our Win with Black Women volunteer power, to focus on low propensity voters for Get Out the Vote, and to focus on telling Black women's collective story. Our 4 pillars are communications and digital, organizing and mobilizing, partnerships and allies, and of course, fundraising, which means every week we have a theme and a plan to do something. We made it through week 1 where we registered and verified. We made it through week 2 where we created our vote plan. We had a fantastic family Sunday dinner last week, and we've been getting our family out all week. And now in week 4, it is time for us to level up. It is time for us to do the next thing. That's right. It's time for us to be force multipliers and get 10 times the people out. If we have been more than 44,000 for 4 years, and then on July 21st, we were more than 44,000, and today, sisters, we stand more than 130,000. Imagine what we can do in this next week times 10. What does that look like, and what are our calls to action? Well, you know, we have one for each pillar. First of all, email, text, post, vote reminder messages everywhere, and include 866 our vote for election protection. This is for any problem in any state that you might have, because not only do we need to make sure that people are voting, we need to make sure that their votes count. Organizing and mobilizing. Hey, it's really simple, to be quite honest with you. Do everything. Knock the doors, make the calls, send the text, and take people to vote. Early voting has started. Make sure people get their mail-in ballots in. And of course, Election Day is a mere 9 days away. You heard Star. It is time for us to level up on our fundraising. We are this close to $3 million. So support the Brown Girls Fundraising Collective. Don't worry, all these things, the chat are in the resource center. That link, I saw you guys asking for it. Go to your resource tab and you can see it. And then this week, what is our partnership and ally action? Well, United for Harris Walls Week of Action starts on Monday. And don't worry, our sister Chantel, who's part of our partnership team, will be giving you all the information on how you can engage. So, what does that mean we need to do now? Well, first of all, sisters, I think you need to make sure that we know that you're doing it. So we know that the state reporting forms, if before the event, this is fill out your state reporting form. This allows us to let Rachel, it allows us to let our social media team and everybody know what's happening, what to expect, and how to support you. And then after the event, you need to fill out the tracker. Why is the tracker important? Well, let me show you why the tracker is important, because when you fill out the tracker, what you then get is the tracker leads to a map, and the map looks like this. Now, imagine what that's really going to look like if everybody who's doing everything fills out the map. It allows us to tell our own story. And you know what's great about it? You can click on the map anywhere. It'll tell you exactly what's going on. And you can even add your photos and pictures. So we'll have them right there. Look, there's a group photo of Win Black Women doing all this great work in what? My home state of Missouri. Of course, it's the home state of Missouri. You knew I was going to do that. It's not even a question. Go Win Black Women, Missouri. All right, now, what else do we need to be doing? Well, because we are not done yet. We still have election day. I know it felt like it would never get here. And then all of a sudden, it's around the corner. How in the world did that even happen? I don't know about you, but I'm starting to panic a little bit. Not really, because I know we got this. All right, so election day, November the 5th. We have a plan. We are prepared. We will win if we are ready to do something. And let me just be honest, y'all have already been doing it. And I know it seems like impossible and crazy for me to ask you to do some more, but that's exactly what I'm going to ask you to do, because I do not want anybody to wake up on November 6th and think, I should have done that. We're not having that conversation. On November 6th, we're going to say we did everything we could do and more. We pushed ourselves right up to the limit, but not over the limit, sisters, just to the limit. And we did everything we did, and we know we will be successful and victorious. With that, I am ready to do something and join the rest of my sisters who've already been getting it done. Thank you, Joteka.
Holly, well, thank you so much for leading us in all things organizing and also helping to always make sure that Win with Black Women keeps on trucking and keeps on moving. I appreciate and thank you so much, my sister, for just always leading in a spirit of love and very good strategy as well. Thank you so much. Sisters, moving right on in the agenda, and I'll bring up another great Holly, who's going to talk to us about our digital organizing and digital strategy, Sister Holly Weeks.
Hey everyone, so I'm going to be giving all of the digital strategy, digital media. I'm preparing all the stuff. There we go. So for this week, October 27th, I'm going to give first the background. So you got to know we start with our hashtags. And this week we have 4.4 million impressions with our hashtag for One with Black Women, and the hashtag One Voice, One Fight was 12.8K. Now on our Instagram, it's still standing strong with 109K. Our Threads account has 20.7K, which is our baby account. Facebook is 75.9K followers, both on the group and in the following page. And then on our, which was Twitter, which is now called X. Yes, Twitter, which is now X, is 29.3K followers. Now, as Holly said before, and Chantel will give more details, the toolkit is United for Harris Week of Action. Now, you see this right here. Go and take a screenshot, because at the very bottom, you see the very important thing that says, are you registered? You can go to vote.org. If you have issues voting, call 866-OUR-VOTE. And every day this week, you see what the week of action topics are, starting from Monday, ending on Sunday. Please join us in all of this week for action activities. And to ensure that you have all of that information, we also want to give you our resources. So then that way, when it's Women with Black Women times 10, this is how you can help them with voter registration, voter verification, sample ballots, mail-in ballots, and election reminders, because some states do have same-day voting. So look at your state and look at all of those details. Now, like we've done all the other weeks, we're going to continue with candidate spotlights. And our next candidate spotlight is going to be from North Carolina, and it is October 31st. Happy Halloween. Even though it's going to be Halloween on that 31st, you can go out and vote. So at 10 a.m., log on to all of the Women with Black Women platforms, catch a little information about North Carolina, go vote, get some Halloween candy, and go on to the next day to continue the action. We have 3 more coming up, one on the 31st and 2 on the 1st. We're trying to make sure that Friday is an epic day. The next thing we have is we got to bring back the Black Joy. And this Black Joy is going to be from the Women Black Women Ohio, and they have a little message for us. So I'm going to turn my camera off so we can watch it.
As a Black woman from Ohio, we got a whole lot of Black women from Ohio.
A whole lot of Black women.
A whole lot of Black women to remind you that your vote is critical.
Ohio is fortunate to have a legacy of past and current Black women leaders.
Like Fannie Lewis, Stephanie Tubbs Jones,
Rudolph Addison Holmes, and Marsha Fudd.
This legacy is continued by leaders like Representatives Joyce Beatty,
Amelia Sykes, and Chantel Brown.
But it does not end with them.
It continues with all of us.
We must fight to continue our legacy and protect our future.
Voting is how Black people in Ohio fight back.
For Black women, one of the most pressing issues is the potential rollback of reproductive health rights.
Project 2025 outlines plans that could restrict access to abortion and other forms of reproductive care
by limiting federal support for these services and imposing more stringent regulations on healthcare providers.
These changes would particularly impact Black women who already face disproportionately high maternal mortality rate.
Voting.
Voting. Voting is how Black people in Ohio fight back.
Project 2025 stands on economic policies,
poses risks to economic equity for Black women.
It seeks to cut federal protections related to workplace discrimination and restricts access to federal benefits
that are essential for many Black families.
This includes potential cuts in programs like Medicaid
and food assistance, which would disproportionately affect lower income communities.
Voting is how Black people in Ohio fight back.
Black women in Ohio, we are ready to fight back against extremist policies
like Project 2025 and be a part of the process by supporting Ohio Issue 1.
For too long, gerrymandering has kept Ohioans from having fair representation.
By voting yes on Issue 1 to establish the Redistricting Citizen Commission,
we return the power to the people.
Voting is how Black people in Ohio fight back.
They are predicting that we won't show up.
They think we won't vote.
They think we won't vote.
They think we won't vote.
But a whole lot of Black women are on a mission to prove them wrong.
Join us, a whole lot of Black women,
and vote.
And vote.
Vote.
Now, wasn't Ohio amazing? Now, people, put your hearts in the chat for Ohio. And if you want to see the Ohio video and the video from the other 5 that we have created, please go to the Win with Black Women's YouTube page and you will see Arizona, Illinois, Ohio, Maryland, and then the overall one, which is Win with Black Women, that has people from all over the United States. We made sure that we tried to include as many people as we could in this video. Shout out to Ohio. They were the last ones that we got in the video from last week. Actually, not gonna lie, we did theirs yesterday and we got it done today because we wanted to make sure that we had it done. They talk about very important issues. We know each state has issues that is prevalent to their state. So we want to make sure we always highlight those things. Please go to the Women of Black Women YouTube page to see all of those videos right there. Before I do end, I want to repeat again, if you have any issues, please go to 866 Our Vote. And for those actual numbers, it's 866, I wrote it down, 687 8683. And 866ourvote.org is the website. If it is wrong, please go to the resources. They will correct me, but I believe that is right. It is 866ourvote.org is the website. 866 Our Vote for any issues, and then 866-687-8683 is the actual number that you would call. Again, 866-687-8683. Yes. And the last thing, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, because these next 9 days, we're going to talk so much election. If you don't have the 866 Our Vote number memorized, you will have it memorized by October 6th, because we're going to talk about it every single day. Let's get out and do something. Next is going to be Chantel. I give it back to Joteko. We're so happy that you're back. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Holly. And thank you so much for our digital team. And shout out to Sierra Johnson as well. You two are holding down all things digital, Instagram, Facebook. We're even on TikTok as well. All the platforms, X, find Win with Black Women, follow. But most importantly, remix our videos. I learned that you could do that. You could hit remix if you see a video a reel that you really, really like. You could just hit remix and add like a comment to it and post it on your page. So we want you to share all of those good things. I'm so excited to bring up our sister Chantel Mullen. She spends a lot of time with all of our amazing partners. And hello to all of our partners that are watching, to all of our friends united for Kamala Harris. We are so excited for you to be joining us on Sunday nights. And Chantel, over to you to talk about all the amazing coalitions. I think we now have horror writers for Kamala.
We do. We do. You know, I have a lot of new best friends. Hi, besties. We talk all the time. And when I tell you that we got something to do, let me share my screen so I can show you what we have going on. So, you know, as Michelle Obama said, as Kamala's mama said, we got to do something, y'all. And guess what? I got lots for you to do. Well, if I can change the screen. So remember, Holly said, we got the week of action. I made this whole little neat graphic for you so you could see where we are. We're going to start off tomorrow with reproductive freedom. On Tuesday, we're going to racial and social justice. On Wednesday, which happens to be my birthday, we're going to talk about inflation and lower costs. On Thursday, it's jobs. On healthcare. On Friday, it's healthcare. On Saturday, we're going to be talking about immigration. And on Sunday, it's gun control and gun reform. So what's going to be happening? Well, all of our unity groups, we are going to be sharing messages on social media. So it's really important that you follow all of the Win with Black Women social media channels, because we're going to post those messages and we want you guys to help us amplify all of those messages. So the groups are all working hard right now to make these graphics. And so they're coming from everywhere. We got the chefs, we got the Swifties, we got the cat ladies, we got the poets, we got all of the folks. So make sure you are following us so you can participate and help us amplify these messages. But let's go here. You know, this happened a little earlier tonight, but Win with Black Men tried to show out on us. They had Barack Obama and all of these brothers on their call earlier this evening. I peeked over there on their YouTube channel and checked it out. I heard the president. It was a great message. You can go to Roland Martin's YouTube channel and you should be able to watch the program that they had this evening. The brothers are doing an outstanding job. So I ain't gonna talk about Jennifer Jones, who just sent me this National Prayer Walk flyer 2 seconds ago. So I was struggling trying to fit it in here, but we got a National Prayer Walk on Tuesday. And y'all are showing out because y'all are starting to do all this in-person stuff. So we've got the headliners for Harris. We've got a youth vote rally that's happening. They got some conversations. This is one with the Black men for Harris. So they're having a conversation with D.L. Hughley and Don Cheadle. We're also going to have a Chefs for Kamala. They're having an early voting event over in Baltimore. A little earlier this evening, we had a Souls to the Poll conversation. We have the I Choose Kamala. They are having a program, and you can scan the QR code to get your seat. There's also one of our partner groups, National Coalition of Black Civic Participation. They're having the Power of the Ballot Freedom and Joy Tour. You know, guess what? They stopped by one of my Souls to the Poll, Party to the Poll event today in Georgia. So you can check out all the places that they are going to be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. We still have our weekly organizing calls. We got a lot of phone banking going on. We've got our mobilizing calls, Women Wednesdays. We got North Carolina. We got our neurodivergent. We got the white dudes. We got the Black voters. We got Florida. We got the African immigrants. We got them all. But you know what? I was out here just checking to see what y'all had going on. And I realized y'all got a lot of phone banks. Child, you can find a group. If it ain't one up here, make one up for you, because there is a group for you. There's a phone bank for you. They even got the train lovers. They got the investors. They got the small business, climate, Latinos, Irish, young, Arab, Native American, progressive. You name it, we got it. We are truly the big tent. You know, I feel like we just need to have a slumber party, because this is some serious organizing right here. And you know what? There's even more, because I was over on Mobilize. I just did a little screenshot to show you there. If you go over there, they will find somebody near you. Put in your zip code, they will find you. So it's a ton of folks. Don't forget, we still have the One Voice, One Fight shop. I saw somebody drop the link to the state shirts in there. So I have on my nifty Win with Black Women Georgia shirt. And so you can get a state shirt, but you can also get your Win with Black Women. There's also always some nice gear. And just a reminder, follow us. Follow us on social media. You're going to want to follow us because we've got the week of action and you don't want to miss it. Joe Taker, that is it. That is it.
Thank you so much, Sister Chantel. You know, one of the things that always gets me excited, all of these calls on Sundays get me really excited, but really when I hear your report, because what it reminds me is the spark and the power of Black women. All of those coalitions, many of them were inspired by our collective action on July 21st, that first night, 44,000 on Zoom, and the additional 50,000 plus that were watching or listening into our Zoom. And from that, to see all of these coalitions that have literally raised over $20 million.
Yes.
Plus mobilize millions of people. And I just want every last one of you that are listening to understand that that is you. That is your power. That is the inspiration that you have created in this country. And I just think that it is so incredibly powerful to see all of these coalitions. And I hope my Swifties are watching, because they gave me a Swiftie bracelet and I literally wear this Swiftie bracelet. I have not taken it off. They gave me 3. I gave one to my mom, the one that has my name, I gave to my mom. And this one says Win with Black Women. And I have another one that I carry with me that says United for America. But the power of that coalition is so powerful. And I just love seeing it. And the train lovers, you know, I want to figure out exactly what the train lovers, like I want to understand a little bit. The train lovers.
I think I figured it out tonight. It's the trains around Maryland and DC and all of those things. Because I think it's the train line. But I forgot to mention, I'm going to drop the links to these as always in the Win with Black Women Facebook page and on my Twitter page and Facebook page. I'll have the link, so you don't and we'll post the presentation in the resources in just a minute.
It's there.
Thank you so much, sisters. Well, sisters, it is so great. We are almost at the end of our agenda. And before I bring up, we are going to move the agenda just a bit, but one of my favorite people in the entire world, fierce leader for HBCUs, and of course, in our D9 family, we always love seeing you, Dr. Glenda Glover. And I know I'm going to start to see the pink and green hearts in the chat. So bring all the pink and green hearts. I know they're about to come. Come on, come on. It's all sisterly here. How about we'll let the pink and green go? Okay. Now I want to see all the other colors. I know I got to see my red and white. We got to see the blue and gold and the blue and white, but all the colors, the links, all of y'all. Yes, there go all the colors. But we do want to make sure, I believe our good sister Katara is here, who's going to give us a wellness moment. Because Dr. Glenda Glover, I think it's only fitting that we have you close us out tonight so that you can give us a very special update, but then also give us a good spiritual close. Because in addition to having all those degrees and being the former president of Tennessee State University and former president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, you also can bring a good word as well. So we're going to bring you back, but we're going to have Sister Katara come up and give us a wellness moment, and we'll have you close us out, Dr. Glover.
Hello, Win with Black Women family. Jotega, thank you so much for having me. I'd like to take this mindfulness moment to ground us in the power of our ancestors. As we gather today, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and honor the resilience, strength, and joy of our ancestors, the ones, despite facing unimaginable odds, planted seeds of liberation, progress, and joy that we continue to nurture today. They laid the path we now walk and held steadfast to the vision of a brighter tomorrow. So in this moment, I invite you to join me in a practice of grounding ourselves in their enduring spirit, their tenacity, and their wisdom as we move into this final full week before Election Day. So I invite you to take a deep breath in, expanding our lungs as we inhale the strength of our ancestors, filling ourselves with their wisdom, their courage, their hope. And as we exhale, feeling the connection to generations past and the legacy we carry forward. Let's take another inhale, drawing in the presence and joy of those that came before us. And exhale, letting go of anything that no longer serves us. One more deep breath, asking our ancestors to hold us. And slowly exhale, releasing any doubts, anxieties, or fears, and letting them dissolve into the earth beneath us. And as we enter this final week, remember we are never alone. We walk with those who have come before, and we pave the way for those that will come after. And my hope for us as we enter this week is that we stay grounded and keep pushing forward, deeply connected to each other and deeply connected to our ancestors. This week, may we remember to keep exhaling. Thank you, Jotega.
So powerful, Sister Katara. My goodness. Let us keep exhaling. Thank you for that reminder, and thank you for giving us this very important moment of wellness. Sisters, I am honored to now turn the Win with Black Women stage over to Dr. Glenda Glover. to close us out and to give us a special announcement.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Joteka. I'm so happy to see you back. And God bless you and your mom. She's been in our prayers. So we have today one more request for you. And we always open with prayer and we close with prayer because we're a group of praying women. So in speaking with the clergy and having conversations with the team, we're asking tonight one more request that in addition to our prayers, that we add a fast to that. We're asking the women to go on a 3-day fast. If you look in Isaiah, it says we get fasting from many sources in the Bible. I like the one in Isaiah when it says, "Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen to loose the chains of injustice and to untie the cords of the yoke, to set free to set justice." So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a fast. So let's see if we can go for 3 days, starting Monday night, midnight. We say 11:59 because sometimes people say midnight starts the next day. But Monday, tomorrow night for 3 days until Thursday night. If we could put it back up there for me, please. If we could not do any bread, any desserts, sweets, or any junk food, and just only drink water. That's a simple, what we call a 3-day fast. It's a partial fast. So we think with the fast plus the prayer plus our vote will equal victory for us. So, are you with me on that? Can we do that? God honors a sacrifice. This is our gift. We're asking him to grant us his victory. We believe he will grant us his victory. We're going to put a fast, some wings onto our prayer. All right, so let me just close this out in prayer. Can we just take a prayer for a moment and settle our minds and our hearts? Lord, we thank you for the privilege of lifting up your word. Thank you for allowing us to assemble and discuss the business of this election and of Black women across the country, the plan for winning. As we close out this section, thank you for the speakers tonight and for those who are participating. Lord, we believe in you, we trust you, our faith is in you. We ask for the victory. We claim the victory. It is in your name, your mind-regulating name, your yoke-breaking name, your burden-bearing name, your heavy load-sharing name, your stronghold-destroying name. It is in that name that we pray, and that is the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. And as Dr. Janetta Beshko will remind us, an A-woman as well. Sisters, that brings us to the end of Win with Black Women.